Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, and welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and the Winnipeg Jets were watched by Josh, who is the first one into Game Over Winnipeg today. They also beat the Nashville Predators 5-2 in a very, let's say, frustrating game. And before we kind of get into it, let's talk about shifting into hyperdrive and hyperdrive hockey. So shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that'll drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Wednesday for your fill-in on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. That's Apple. You know, if you found it here, you know. We got Josh. Josh is first. We got Harold Peltier, who says 300 wins. Yeah, Connor Hellebuck got his 300th win today. My favorite player, my favorite Jet of all time. Some people tell me I look like him. Yeah, I think it's just like big head, ears, longer hair. 'Tis what it is, my man. Yeah, thank you for commenting, Harold and Josh. So, Game Over Winnipeg. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to go over the game like we usually do. A little recap, a little thing to kind of go over what happened. Then we're going to switch things up a little bit. I'm going to do a little rant about penalties and how I think it's stupid that there are just penalties that they just call. Grow a beard. Buddy, I just shaved. Josh says grow a beard. You know what? I will just for you, Josh. How about that? That'll be a fun little treat. I'm going to talk about penalties and how I think that you can't have stupid judgment calls if you're going to have automatic penalties, and you can't use by the book as an excuse because there is seemingly just no book. And then we're going to go, this was the Jets' 42nd game of the season, which means that they have successfully gone through half the season. And we have to talk, and we're going to give out some player grades. I wrote some player grades for all the Winnipeg Jets forwards, and then on our show on Friday, we'll go over the defense, goalies, and management. I haven't decided if I want to do like the coaching staff yet, but I think that would be a fun avenue to go down. So let's start with the Jets. Terrible first 5 minutes. The Winnipeg Jets looked awful. It started with the Ehlers giveaway along the boards, and you were just like on the first shift, you're just like, it's gonna be one of those. Mark Scheifele had a giveaway, Stanley had a giveaway, Kyle Connor had a giveaway. It was just, man, it might as well have been Halloween. They were just giving all their stuff away. You want some candy, have some great time. And as soon as the Winnipeg Jets, like, they looked like they were bending, they weren't breaking, but they were bending. Roman Josi takes an intentional offside, seemingly to just not give the Winnipeg Jets possession, which really led to their downfall because Scott Arniel just had a complete ballsy move. It was intentional offside, so it went all the way back to the Nashville Predators zone, and Scott Arniel goes, you know what? Everyone's playing bad. What do we do? After a TV timeout, offensive zone faceoff, he throws out Rasmus Kupari, Barron, and Gustafsson. A nice faceoff win. Kupari with a fake wraparound, and Barron bangs it in. How good has Barron been lately? Kind of rediscovering his form from last year, getting a little offense in, getting a little bit more physical as well. And then I think he scores, and then 16 seconds later, Winnipeg Jets, we're not playing the top two lines. They haven't been too good. Let's throw out the Lowry line, dump in, Lowry retrieves it, DeMello gets it, passes to Morrissey. Morrissey rips a patented slap shot. Not the biggest slap shot taker, but it's you love it when he does it. And he just rips it and perfectly top right past UC Saros. And then I put this little bit in there. It doesn't really affect the Jets too much, but Pionk injures Evangelista, and I just want to say that name. Then to round out the period, a really nice entry by Mark Scheifele, and then a Game Over Winnipeg favorite, Dylan Coghlan, rushes through. Mark Scheifele gives away the puck a little bit, but Dylan Coghlan is there to support, gets it back from Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele clean pass to Kyle Connor, and Kyle Connor makes no mistake, just rips it home. I believe it went low blocker, and just rips it past UC Saros, who seemed like he was backing up in his net. So just as soon, like, I don't think the Winnipeg Jets, that was their best period of hockey, but they're definitely opportunistic, which was very frustrating for the Nashville Predators, who are not only 32nd in goals, but are 32nd in shooting percentage with a rate. I erased it to make more room because there's also that happened in this game, but it's bad. Okay, they don't score on their shots, and that's kind of a thing that went in through this game. And then the Winnipeg Jets started kind of losing momentum in the second period when they were kind of going up the walls. And that was kind of where they ran into trouble in the first period. They're getting hemmed in because they weren't using that extra guy, just the center, as support. They were having a little trouble getting out of their zone. And then the second worst thing that could possibly happen happened. Josh Morrissey slams into the post, and Josh Morrissey leaves the game. He tries to come back, but he couldn't quite make it. And I hope we get some updates live during this game. Hopefully some people in chat can kind of give me some updates on if Josh Morrissey's okay, what Arniel says. But hopefully Josh Morrissey's okay, because probably after Connor Hellebuck, Josh Morrissey is arguably the most important player on this team. It's either him or Mark Scheifele, just because of the depth at that position, especially with Dylan Samberg out, who should be returning soon. And then Neil Pionk takes 2 penalties. And with the 2 penalties on the penalty kill, one thing we praised the Winnipeg Jets for last week is on the penalty kill, they're able to have the puck, or not have the puck, but when the other team had the puck, when Nashville had the puck specifically, they were really cheating towards Steven Stamkos. And then so for the first penalty kill, they did that. But then on the second penalty kill, Steven Stamkos wasn't there. And just with that, Roman Josi became the primary kind of shooting target, just because he had the best shot on the team. And while he's not in the right position, they felt like they could just take the shot, the right-handed shot from the right-handed side to kind of a better angle as a defensive team. But Peter Forsberg just takes a shot that it's an all-world shot. He's an elite goal scorer, and those will go in sometimes, even on the best goalie in the world. And it was one of those things where you're watching Logan Stanley on the penalty kill. I don't want to rip too much on him today, but no, we're not doing it. It looked like he just kind of chicken winged on that one, wasn't in great position. And I don't know if it was the Winnipeg Jets not adjusting to Steven Stamkos being out of the lineup, who their whole penalty kill strategy against Nashville kind of seemed to be around. But it just seemed like, once again, Logan Stanley kind of screened his own goalie on that one. And then we kind of go into the third period here, and Kupari gets a high sticking penalty while tripping and falling. I didn't know that was a thing. I know, like, when you play ball hockey, if you fall and then you trip someone when you fall, that's kind of like an automatic penalty. But I didn't know that when you're falling, when you're not in control of your own body because you're in free fall, you can still high stick someone. But I guess you are always kind of in control. You're always supposed to be in control of your own stick, which I guess by the rules makes sense. But we're going to get more into that in the second period when we talk about just refereeing and automatic penalties, and why I just think NHL refereeing is, it's brutal. And then right here, I was hoping the Winnipeg Jets would just, we talk a lot on this show about the Winnipeg Jets needing to learn how to win, needing to learn how to play a little dirty. And I was kind of hoping it's like, okay, they've gotten like 5 power plays. The Winnipeg Jets gotten 0. Let's bring this up a little bit. Let's kind of raise the stakes. Let's go in there, finish checks, little jabs after the whistle. And then the Winnipeg Jets get a penalty from Barron, not Morgan Barron, but his brother, Justin Barron, I believe is his first name, on the Nashville Predators. And the Winnipeg Jets don't take a lot of time. They go about 9 seconds in, 9 or 19, and just Mark Scheifele goes around the net, passes it to Nikolai Ehlers, who's been fantastic in this spot on the power play. They really missed him when he was out. Takes a slap pass, goes straight to Velarde. Velarde just needed to stick on the ice, just angle it the right way, goes into the net. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And then, we needed some drama because we are the Winnipeg Jets. And in January, the Winnipeg Jets, besides like last year, the Winnipeg Jets are always causing drama in January. And Roman Josi takes a one-timer, and it looks like it went in. And it's like, that's not very characteristic for Connor Hellebuck, because there was no screen. Didn't really know what was going on there. And then it turns out that it goes off Logan Stanley. And you're just like, poor guy. Like, this guy keep on going keeps on getting put in situations that he's not really equipped for, and these things keep happening to him that he just kind of looks kind of silly at times. He's been danced around on the PK. He gets danced around later in this game, a few moments later when Marchessault goes around him. And then when I say, the Jets can get a little dirtier because they have the penalty, they've gotten the other team's gotten more power plays, and the refs try to keep it pretty much even. I don't mean you just run someone in the face. You just punch him. You maybe give him the smelly glove, but you don't just punch him in the face. Stanley gets a double minor for high sticking, and then Kyle Connor with another kind of silly penalty. Was that a penalty? Well, I think when you turn around and whip your stick, I don't think you should keep it at hand level. And I definitely think that they're going to call that if you give them the opportunity to, apparently, even though who knows what a penalty was in this game. But then Kyle Connor, knowing that, what was the upside of keeping your stick at that height, keep it on the ice. That way, if you make contact, you can at least kind of strip the puck away, cause some disruption. But instead, you just get it in the hands. And that is no bueno. And then we're on the power play. It's a 5-on-3. Really lucky there's no Stamkos. A lot of stuff we have Fife saying. If Logan Stanley gets exposed like that versus a Vaughn feeder, it really makes you worry about the playoffs. Yeah, I really hope they kind of up the floor of this team just by having upping the skill level of the bottom guys there on the defense, because really you look at this team and the right side, I mean, you can live with the right side of DeMello, Pionk, and Colin Miller, maybe even Dylan Coghlan. He looks pretty good. Maybe not as physically mature as you want, but you do have Colin Miller for that spot. But they need someone for that left side, and yeah. So then we're lucky there's no Stamkos, and then the Winnipeg Jets kill off the 5-on-3, and the crowd's going ballistic. They're cheering. The players on the ice couldn't even hear the whistle for the offside, and it really makes you reflect on when there's a game where the crowd gets into it. There's really no place like being in Winnipeg. If you've ever been to a playoff game, I went to one playoff game. It was Game 6 against the Nashville Predators. That was a snoozer. They just played the trap, and we lost pretty fast. Great coaching, Paul. But there are certain nights when you go to the Winnipeg Jets game, and they just give you something to see, and it's just so lovely. And then Helly makes some crazy saves from Logan Stanley's side, but we're not talking about that right now. And then Nino Niederreiter just gets a big lob up in the air. It lands in front of the net, just goes in, squeaks in, and that is all she wrote. And the Winnipeg Jets win 5-2 in almost a very frustrating game from some of the discipline from your Winnipeg Jets. All right, next we're going to get into the second period. This is where traditionally it's about whatever I want. We're kind of moving things around today. We're going to do our first 41 recap. But first, let me tell you about how you can support the channel. Right now, we're doing some reshuffling of the Patreon. If you want to support us a little bit financially, if you have anything to give, you can check it out down below. But there's other free ways to support Game Over Winnipeg and the Game Over Network. You can just simply like and subscribe. If you want, subscribing and liking is just free and easy, super easy way to support the channel. It really helps us in the algorithm, gets us more viewers, it gets more people in this chat, which makes not only for a more fun viewing experience, but just, we can get more of these, we can get more people in the show, and it's just a grand old time. So let's go into the second period. I'm just going to change the label, boom, we got 2 lights up now, and let's talk about penalties. Okay, so the Kupari penalty. I understand the ruling. I understand that when you are on the ice, you're in control of your stick. If you hit someone in the face, that's high sticking. I understand that when you draw blood because you are not in control of your stick, that is high sticking. What I don't understand is how we can have a professional sports league where there are certain things that are just automatic penalties, but then you can also go, hey, we're putting the whistles away. So for example, there is penalties in this sport where you flip the puck over the net and you flip the puck over the boards, automatic penalty, no questions asked. But there are times when, someone just gets punched in the face, but then it's like, hey, we're just letting the boys play. It's just super frustrating because you see something like, I think the biggest thing for this is interference. I call this the Evander Kane penalty because it was like 2013 coming out of the lockout, and they implemented this rule where the defender, when you dump in the puck, they can't just post you up. They can't just like stop you from coming in. And mere moments before this Kapari play, Luke Shen just does that to Mark Scheifele. And it's just like, how you can't have these automatic penalties and then not have consistency when it comes to the other penalties of the game. So if we're calling it by the book, why isn't that called? If we're calling it by the book, we got to go look at Nino Niederreiter's visor, because you can't have a tilted visor like Leo Komarov did on the first game of the 2013 season, same season that other rules implemented, and getting penalty because you have illegal equipment because your visor's up. Nino Niederreiter is a dirty cheater in that way. You can't have a tucked jersey. We got to make sure those are all untucked. Like, if we're playing it by the rules, guys, we got to play it by the rules. And I don't make the rules, okay? I just sit here and complain about them. So it's just really annoying as a sports fan. Like, if you go, like, there's so many things where if you go to a person who's just trying to get into hockey, and you're talking to them, you're trying to explain the rules of the game, and you're like, okay, you can't just whack someone whenever you want. You can't whack someone in the hands, and then someone gets whacked in the hands, and then they're like, okay, why isn't that a penalty? And then you as the person trying to get someone into hockey goes, well, sometimes they just don't call it. Sometimes they miss it. Well, is it reviewable? No, but are these things reviewable? Yes. It's so ridiculous in the implementation of the rule book. And it's just so frustrating as a fan, coming off of this last week with the Anaheim thing. Again, I understand the rules of why when you knock off your net, I'm talking about the overtime when John Gibson knocks off his net, no penalty for interference when the delay of game, when the Jets have clear control of everything. But also there is, what are we saying? But also, when it goes off again, there's not an automatic whistle when it's the Winnipeg Jets player fault. It's just very frustrating as a fan to just explain these rules and go through these rules, and it's just frustrating. Other things today, before we get into our kind of yearly our halfway point breakdown of the Winnipeg Jets forwards. And by the way, if you have any thoughts, what you give any certain players, any hot takes, let me know in the chat right here. If you think a player's been kind of overrated this season, underrated this season, let me know, and we can talk about it. We're starting with the first line if that is something you're interested in. But before we finish, we got to talk about Josh Morrissey. He's hurt. Brutal. Hopefully Sandberg's back on Friday. But Josh Morrissey is really irreplaceable. The power play runs kind of through him. The even strength defense kind of runs through him. They do so many things with him. They sneak him out for extra shifts. They just pair him with random guys. He's such a band-aid for this team, and just a lot of what makes the Winnipeg Jets special in terms of defending and in terms of offense run through Joshua Morrissey. So if he's out for any like a period of time, that's going to hurt the Winnipeg Jets so much. And I don't think that we kind of need to go deeper into that. I think anyone who just watches the show, anyone who's familiar with the Winnipeg Jets, they know Josh Morrissey, they know how important he is. And I think we're going to be talking more about just how beat up this defense is right now, and how that's kind of like going to be a continuing topic if he's out. And that's just brutal. The other thing is Logan Stanley. And I think with Logan Stanley, it reminds me of, there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother. There's a Christmas episode, and where Jason Segel's character gets stuck on the roof because someone names this neighborhood kid. He's trying to put up Christmas lights, and this neighborhood kid, Scott, tries to help him, rips down the ladder, and then throws a party in his house. And then he's looking through like the window on top of the house, and he keeps on going, Scott, at everything he does. He's like ripping a bong. He's drinking in the house. He's inviting people over. He's throwing a party. And that's Scott playing Logan Stanley's situations where he shouldn't be. And I'm just looking through the window. I'm looking through my TV, and I'm just going, Scott! Like, Scott Arniel, at some point, the toys got to be taken away from him. The idea of having this 6'7" defenseman needs to be taken away from him. And I don't know whose agenda this is. I don't know if this is but it's just not fair to this human being who's going out there. This guy can't have a social media profile because like there's gonna be some crazies out there going right at him. But going into the playoffs, we can't see this person. He's just getting danced around by Jason Marshall. So they're trying to make him a penalty kill mainstay. He can't do it, and it's just at some point it sucks because he's trying to do his job. He gets paid a lot of money to do this job, and he's just getting crapped on left, right, and center. What do you think that these defensive pairings look like if 44 is out for any period of time? I think it depends on if Sandberg is back. I think they might start with a Sandberg and they might go Sandberg and Pionk. I think that pairing just makes sense, and then they're gonna put Dylan DeMello into babysitting mode because when Dylan DeMello first got to Winnipeg, they had like defense. It was like Josh Morrissey with Pullman. It was Pionk with Derek Forbert. That's a wild person to mention. And then it was whatchamacallit? It was Dylan DeMello and person he's babysitting because Dylan DeMello is so good defensively. He's such a smart player that he should be in babysitting mode. And I think Heinola would be a good opportunity to give him an extended look. Logan Stanley is going to be in the lineup because if Josh Morrissey is injured, and you got to think that the role that Heinola on a pair with Dylan DeMello would kind of fit into is just okay. Heinola does the majority of the puck moving. DeMello kind of takes care of the most of the stuff, and I think if on the third pair, Logan Stanley is very limited in his puck moving ability. I think when you watch him, the little plays he makes, he's just trying to hand it off to Pionk today so he could make the pass up the ice. And I think that Dylan Coghlan could kind of fill that role and kind of help Logan Stanley if he's in the lineup. So I would definitely go Sandberg and Pionk for those harder matchups. They'd be the matchup pair. You have to do it. It might not be ideal because you'd rather have it with DeMello and Morrissey, but he's not available. Then you have you give Heinola a look with DeMello just to kind of keep the roles the same for DeMello. Like use DeMello's strengths and let him be comfortable. He hasn't had his best season so far in Winnipeg, but he is still a very effective player. And I think he'd be up for the challenge. And if he's taking on the secondary matchups, he might be able to find some more of his magic. And then just Stanley and Coghlan because those are the last two guys. I don't foresee the Winnipeg Jets like calling up Samuelson or like Lundmark while they're on this homestand because just having the Moose so readily back. I don't know if they're on a road trip right now, but if Morrissey's hurt, they have to call someone up just like if someone gets hurt in warm up or something. But yeah, all right. With that, let's go into the Winnipeg Jets kind of first 41 grades. And before we do that, let me tell you that Game Over Winnipeg has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Jets, you've got to get your game on too. Game On Winnipeg is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Winnipeg Jets. It's hosted by Harrison Lee, and it's debuting soon, and you can get all your Winnipeg Jets news in 10 minutes, Monday through Friday on the Game Over Network YouTube channel, and in podcast form at, wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, let's go to the third period. All right. We're starting with the first line. This is how it's going to work. While I'm kind of reading what I use to kind of define these rules, and I might even change them while I go through these. Let me know what you think. What do you think the first line's kind of rated? Like go like 81 for Kyle Connor, and then put your letter grade. So like A is obviously the best, and like I think like these are pretty positive. They're pretty generous because the Winnipeg Jets have been so good. It's hard to give a bad grade when like the team's kind of performing had the first 41 games that it had. And this is how I kind of made these things. It's kind of a combination of cap hit because cap world, it's not really fair to the guys to judge them based on what they're making, but in terms of efficiency and how you're using your cap, it unfortunately has to come into play. We have to talk about their role, your role in the team, and your play. So it also takes into account your past performance and how that relates to your current performance. And I also think that if you don't like us using cap hits as a way to judge a player's performance, then you're not allowed to complain about LTIR or anything like that. Because if you're not using your cap space to its fullest, then we can't talk about like the getting more cap space because it's a little silly. All right. So Kyle Connor, makes $7.14 million, 22 goals, 30 assists. I'm not including the goal he scored tonight because we're talking about the first 41 games of the season. He's a great cap hit for his role. He found his fastball in the power play. The last few years, he hasn't been able to find the success in the power play that we've been hoping for. He has it this year. I think he's having the smartest hockey of his career. He's been the best Jets forward, in my opinion. And his job as a winger to put up a bunch of points. And he does that. You can't really say he's not. He's on pace for about 104 points on the season. And with that included with his cap hit, like if he had a Mitch Marner cap hit, I think it'd be a little different, but you got to give him an A, I believe. Mark Scheifele, $8.5 million, 23 goals, 23 assists, on pace for 92 points. It's a better defensive season, which is not too difficult. He wasn't the greatest defensive player before. Let me know if you disagree or agree with any of these in the comments right here. We can see everything. It's a good cap hit for a 1C playing at his level, and I feel like his great December counteracts his bad stretch when looking hurt. The last few weeks with the first line clicking the way it has really ups his grade. And you got to count like when we thought he was kind of injured, because if he's going to put himself in the lineup, if he's going to be playing, then you know what? We have to act like he's at 100% because that's what he's showing us that he is. But I gave him an A-. He's shooting at 25%. That kind of lends you to believe he's scoring a little bit higher than he should be. I also think that comparing a first-line winger to a first-line center, we're grading on a curve here for sure. And I think with Mark Scheifele, you need a dominant first-line center in the playoffs. And is he truly dominant, or is his line dominant? And maybe if we were talking about a group project with this line as a whole, it would be a little different. But I think it's an A-, which is still a really good grade. Gabriel Velarde is, using our criteria, he makes 3.44. So, he's got 36 points in the first 41 games. And he's on pace for 72 points, which is really, really good. He has 17 out of 36 on the power play, but he's such a large part of the power play in terms of what he's able to do around the net, how his player on the net kind of opens up other things, how you're able to do things like the Ehlers slap pass today and do some really creative stuff. And he's gotten really hot lately, which kind of counteracts his slower start. Let's go like this. 70-ish points is really good for a first-line player. And then for guys who scored 70-ish points last year, like Brock Besser, Kevin Fiala, Brady Tkachuk, Zibanejad, all which make like twice as much as he does. That's super efficient for the cap space. That's an A. Ehlers is $6 million, 12 goals. These first few are just not going to be very fun to talk about because like they're all like all the guys in the power play. So good. 12 goals, 21 assists, 32 points in 32 games. Makes the power play work with his speed. You saw what he did tonight. There's no one else on the team who could kind of make that slap pass. I don't think Cole Perfetti could do that. In the team's offense, you really felt that absence when he was out of the lineup. He's a second line player, which puts him on a different kind of curve than a guy like Kyle Connor. He does have a few turnovers, that stuff happens. But did you know that him and Kyle Connor have identical points per 60 at 5-on-5? They both score about 2.9 points per 60 minutes of ice time. And with the difference in line mates, that's such a crazy feat. He gets an A as well. He's been super good this season. Nemestikov, he makes $2 million, 20 points, 9 goals in 41 games. He's a tough one because when we're talking about who he is as a player with his cap hit, you kind of got to give him some leeway. He's the second/third line center. Adam Lowry kind of plays more than he does, has a little bit bigger role on the penalty kill, but he's a second line center, he's not a second line center. It's not his fault. He's a low cap hit. He's on pace for 40 points. You'd like that to be a little bit higher for his role as line mates. I'd give him a C. The cap hit's kind of low. He's not going to end there. And he has had such good games this season, especially in the first 20-ish games when he looked 100%. And I think a C is a fair grade, especially because when you look at Nemestikov, you really feel like that player out there, he's a C. He just does everything really well, like a 6 out of 10. He does so good. He's just so nice to have on your team. You can play him kind of anywhere in a pinch. If like the Jets had a second line player like last year, if Sean Monahan got hurt in the playoffs and Nemestikov had to kind of fill in there, you'd be like, you know what? We've seen it work. We can do that. We can do it with him there for a few games. And then there's Perfetti. I think Perfetti is like the Kyle Connor of the second line, whose main job is to put up points. I think Ehlers, while a better points getter, has more jobs in terms of transition, while Kyle Connor in the first line, his job is just to put the puck in the net, and is Perfetti is kind of the same thing, where it's just like your job is purely offense. He had a really good stretch from game like 15 to 30, but there's just some nights where he's not visible. He has a pretty like diminished role compared to other second lines in the league because they play their Lowry line just like the third line. He's had some nice board playing from time to time, which I think he gets him engaged in the game, makes him a little bit more effective. But I just don't think the second line has eaters to kind of give him the tools to have like that A season. They have him and Nemeskov, who both have the same kind of issue on that line, where they're both making dinner. They're both like making the food for everyone, but there's no one there to eat. Like you see today, we had Mark Scheifele. He made the dinner to Kyle Connor, and Kyle Connor just ate. He scored the goal. But it's like Nemestikov and Perfetti and Ehlers are all like making the food, but Ehlers is the only one who eats, but he's also the best at making the food, if that makes any sense. But I think he's like a C minus. It's kind of the same thing. It's hard. His defensive impacts are pretty good. He just doesn't have that speed, and you want to kind of see more out of him. More points than Nemestikov, but he does make 3.25 a bit more, so I'd probably give him around the same grade. Then we have Nino Niederreiter, and I lumped him in with Adam Lowry. I think they're just so joined at the hip at 5-on-5. You can't really talk about one without talking about the other. They both have the same stat line, 10 goals, 12 assists in 41 games. And Nino Niederreiter gets some more power play time, so he kind of gets a little bit like, he has some easier matchups just on the ice because sometimes the other team doesn't have a guy out there. Their defensive impact is the most important part of their grade. They're really good out there at suppression, and that's like a really important part of their role. Because Adam Lowry makes a little bit less, he scores the same amount in even amount of minutes. I'd give him a B+. You kind of got to rate Adam Lowry as a second, third line center, and then I'd give a second or third line center / because they play him like a second line center. And Nino's a B. He just makes a little bit more. And but I think he's like really, really good. B's a good grade. We're not like, not everyone can get A's, guys. And then there's Appleton. 6 goals, 9 assists in 37 games. And in the first half, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Appleton fan. I think Iafallo went up there and looks really, really good. But he does kind of help that line work really well. I think he kind of started to play a little bit too complicated. When Iafallo got on there, they just got really direct. That you see the amount of 2-on-1s they get just because they're going straight. They're going north-south. They're getting to the net. They're putting stuff in there. And it's just lovely. And I think Appleton tries to go east-west a little bit too much sometimes. And he just doesn't seem like he always fits on that line. But when he does, when it's working, especially in the first part of the season, it's kind of nice. But then, just like last season, he got off to a really hot start and then kind of fizzled off in the end. Because of how kind of his defensive impact with those two guys, it's hard to kind of take him away. It's hard to isolate him because those three are stuck at each other's hips. He gets a C-. Barron 1.35. He had a really tough 35 games compared to what we're used to him. He makes 1.35. We said that, and he's just not who he was last season for the first bit. Today, he's looking so much better in the last few games, but we have to look at his work as a whole. He has 3 goals and 3 assists in 41 games. And I just think in terms of board play, making an impact, having that offense that or just driving that fourth line, I don't think it's him who does it for a lot of nights on the season. And for him, I'd give him a D. I think if you gave me his last few games, he'd probably get us a C+, maybe even a B, because of how well he's been playing, how much he's been setting up, especially on his shifts after the power play. But I just think with Barron, you saw today, this isn't I don't want to take this too much, but he has more to give, and I think that's the key. He's the kid in the class who has a little bit more to give you, and you're just we just want you to succeed, man. And then we have Kapari, $1 million. I'm a big fan. He can't score. There's no offense there at all. He has a nice little release, never hits the net. I give him a C. He's a fourth line center, and he's not an incredible fourth line center. He does the job. It's the same Nemeskov thing. He just does the job, and you love him for it. gets a good grade, not like the honor roll of fourth line centers, not like the guy out there who, like if Adam Lowry was your fourth line center, like that's an A plus, right? But because he's out there, he does what you want as a fourth line center. He's good at faceoffs. C plus is kind of what I give him. With Iafallo, actually let's wait on Iafallo. Let's talk about David Gustafsson. And he makes 835. He's Kapari, but he's big instead of fast, and he's no offense there. He has a nice shot, always hits the post or something, and just a nice body. I think those two complement each other really well. They're just not going to get you a lot of points out there, and that's not the fourth line's job all the time. But when you're in a Stanley Cup playoff run, you need contributions from everyone. So unfortunately, that kind of plays into the equation. Iafallo is interesting. Iafallo is a guy they keep trying to find a role for. He makes $4 million, which I think in my criteria really slams him. 6 goals, 8 points, 14 assists. Now points aren't everything, but it's just an easy way to communicate some things sometimes. And it feels like Scott O'Neill's always trying to get more ice time because he's better than a fourth liner. He's getting a lot better ice time lately. But through the entire 41 games, you're always feeling like, okay, if this $4 million could be used somewhere else, if we could add $4 million on top of Nemestov's salary to get an actual 2C, how different does this team look? We can use this $4 million with someone else. It always feels like if there's someone who's got to go, it's kind of him because they're so married to Appleton. And I think if Appleton was kind of, if he was on that line all the time instead of Appleton, I think we'd feel a little bit differently about him. But unfortunately, because of his cap hit, and this is more of a roster constructor thing, I'd like it's got to be a D just because, and it's not a fault of his own. It's more about the roster building and how you can use that money, because I love this player. I think he brings a lot of stuff. I think he has that directness that you really like in the playoffs, and I don't even think that they should really trade him. But I just, you see that $4 million price tag and you're like, you wonder if that money can be allocated differently in order to kind of get the most out of this roster. And it's just a guy who plays about 12 minutes a night, making that kind of money. You wonder if that's the money that you can use to fix the back end or do something. So it's not even about him so much, his grade. It's about I got a grade back one time from as a class I was doing super well in, and I was one of the best people in the class, I believe, at the time. And then I got an assignment back, and then they just go, my teacher wrote on this was in college, you just didn't get it. And with Iafallo, it's not he doesn't get it, it's that the role he's playing isn't really the role that kind of suits this player. But I think if he got on that Lowry line, second power play, you can live with that so much more, as opposed to fourth liner, PK. A lot of guys can PK, second power play, and it feels like just the money might be able to be better used somewhere else. And then the last two guys, I threw up the prospects. Lambert's hard to say things. He's another guy who wants to, I believe he feels like more of a playmaker type. He wants to do the cooking, but there's no one there to eat. He's got to produce to stay in, had no points in 4 games. He was finding some confidence where they sent him down. I think just with his play, you got to get points. He was finding, I mean, it's not fair to give him an F, but we can say D, C minus sort of thing. Chibrikov out there I don't even think we should rate these guys with the amount of games. So I just kind of want to talk about Chibrikov. Super nice start. Again, you saw he had 3 goals in 4 games. He was on that line with Perfetti and Nemestikov. They did the cooking. He did the eating. 3 goals, scored he had a 33% shot rate. So he scored on 33% of his shots, which is crazy. But he also had 12 shots in 4 games, which is super, super good. And you wonder if that's a guy where they're like, okay, maybe he kind of helps us solve some problems here. And that's all the forwards who've kind of played for the Winnipeg Jets this year. Let me know if you agree with my ratings, if you disagree. Leave the comments below. If you type something about Iafallo getting a kind of a bad grade because of the role, and then you hear the rest of the segment, I think that'd be funny to say that later, to be like, oh yeah, you did say that. But we are about to go to the overtime period. This is the part of the show where you can kind of write in questions to me. They can be about hockey, they can be about not hockey. You can call me an idiot for my ratings. I won't be offended. And while I kind of get your this kind of queued up, and we're on a bit of a lag, not gonna lie to you. So we have to kill some time here while you guys type your questions. Let's talk about the merch. And I don't have my Game Over Winnipeg mugs today. And do you know why? I have a number one teacher mug. Because they're so good, they're all in the wash. So they have to stay there for now. So there's the QR code. And what a better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing. Game Over as apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel a nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or you want to wear your love of goalies proudly with our live or die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get you through the winter, the mugs are crazy. They have multiple sizes too. We have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on the stream now. I always get this wrong. Right there. And take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. And let's see if we have any questions for us today. And I will just kill some more time. What can we talk about? I don't know. Hopefully Dylan Sandberg's back. You kind of missed that player. He was supposed to come in here, be the Brendan Dillon, and he doesn't have the same physicality. But you know, he's such an important part. He was such an important part of the Jets and their identity last year. A guy you really want in playoffs. It's almost too bad he's doing so well in New Jersey, because he would be an awesome guy to have back. Another guy in New Jersey who would be awesome to have back is Kovacevic, but we're not talking about that right now. And all right, cool. I'll wrap up the show. If there are no more questions, we'll see if any come in. But our next game is the LA Kings on Friday. They play at 7 p.m. So our show will be about after the whistle, 9:35, 9:45. Tony says mugs are great. The mugs are great, Tony. Thank you so much. So like 9:35, 9:45 will be our next show. That's on Friday against the LA Kings. We will be rating the defense, and we will be rating the goaltenders as well. Guess what Connor Hellebuyck's going to get? Probably an A+. Who's to say? Congratulations, Connor Hellebuyck, on his 300th win of the season. Speaking of whom, if you want to be a part of the show and you are like, oh, I listen to these after. Well, if you want to send me your defensive ratings ahead of time, you can put them in the comments of this video or tweet at me at OJetsO. We're not calling it X here. And with that, yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much for watching Game Over Winnipeg. I'm Brendan Labarre. See you guys on Friday.